Today we are going to make a device called a Lucet. It is a tool for making cordage. Basically, the principle is that you wrap a string around it, and then the end goes through here, which you can keep under control with your finger. Then you pick that end and wrap it over there, and wrap another one over, like that. And as you wrap, that will create a loop inside or over top of the string that's passing over. Pull it through, and it makes a knotted cord. And the problem with this one is that there's no shoulder for the cord to sit on until it gets down here, which means that when you're picking the cord, you're pulling it way back and you're getting twice that much cord into each loop. So it makes a very, very loose cord, and with no way to get it really tight unless you really work each individual thread after you pull it over the top. So that's not ideal. So we have to change the shape of it in order to make this functional. What we need to do is we can keep it roughly this size. We'll try to keep the handle the same. But we want to narrow this waist so that it goes, instead of going outward like this, it comes inward and then has a little bit of an outward on it. So let's get that started. So we're going to use cardboard aided design, really old technology. So we're going to take this card and we're going to fold it in half. Fold it in half. Not the world's easiest thing to do with some cardboards. Okay. This is just from a shipping box. From a store packaging, rather. Okay. So, let's do it this way. Okay. So we're going to put half the Lucet on there, and we're going to trace it from here down. But from here to the tip and into the gusset, we need to change the shape. Okay, so the shape here needs to be bent inwards and then out to a tip. That way the wool will sit here. And this needs to have enough meat on it. So if we make our Lucet like that, the string will sit here instead of down here. Okay, so let's proceed with the next step, which is cutting out the CAD. I could do that so you could see it better. Let's try it from this angle. Okay, so I'm just following the lines. I'm using a very sharp razor knife, box cutter, whatever you want to call these guys, to cut through. Mostly this cuts through in one intention, but there are a couple of places where it doesn't quite make it through both layers. Okay. You can see there's a couple little bits here. There we go. There is our new template. Okay, so now we need a piece of wood upon which to put our template. And this wood is too short, but we don't need that long of a handle on it, so we will shorten our handle. We'll draw our template. Yes, we could have just drawn this on here by hand, but I'm not that good at attaining symmetrical with freehand drawing, so we'll use the cardboard aided design shape, and we will create a bottom like that. Okay, so there is our shape. Now we have to cut that out. Winter in the shop. Nitrile gloves, these are only 5mm, and hand knit wool hand warmers. So -1 in the shop today, and these have kept my hands flexible and comfortable all morning. So that's about 2 hours in the shop today with these, and my hands are not cold. Okay, there are as many ways to cut this out as there are people on Earth. You can cut most of the material off with a handsaw, including you could cut a V in here with a handsaw and then finish this with a rasp or something. You could drill this out and drill this section out and drill this out and then finish it with a rasp. We're going to start with a turning saw because I like turning saws. So we're just going to start on one side, and whichever side works out best for viewing once I get this all set up, and then we will we'll see where we go from there. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to start with a pull stroke. Now I'm just supporting the saw with this hand, and the right hand is simply pushing the saw back and forth. I'm not pressing down at all. The weight of the saw and the teeth will go through this like just fine. Now I'm controlling the angle of the cut with my left hand. Roughly following the line that I made, not pressing down, just moving the saw back and forth. And I'm not holding it with my left hand. I am just cradling it in the right position to get the right angle of cut. As I come to the curve, I slowly lift my hand, left hand, changing the angle of the blade. One thing that you have to be careful of when you're doing a turning saw is to keep this angle at the angle that you intend for the final product. I want this to be 90 degrees to the face, so I'm maintaining a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's as far as I can go with that. Now we will have to change. So we can do this a number of ways. I could flip this right over and cut from the other side and join. I can put it in from this side horizontally, because the saw is, there we go, guided by the left hand and pull and push by the right hand. We can do this. Now, the problem here is that as we go horizontal, the weight of the saw no longer acts. So we have to find some way to put a little bit of tension on the saw. You can do that by applying a little bit of thumb pressure. Now the problem with that is that this can cause the blade to do this, depending on how much pressure you're putting on there, which may or may not be what you want. Or you can try to put pressure on using your other hand. I don't like that method. I prefer just to use my thumb. Okay, I'm changing the angle of my blade so that I'm not beating on the table with my hand. Now, too much angle here and you can't apply pressure with your thumb, and you have to do it with your right hand. Now we're going to change the angle of the blade more vertical. Oh, come on, turn. And now I'm back to letting the weight of the saw do the work. Bump, bump. And there's what you get. It's a bit wavy, but with practice, which I don't get enough practice with the turning saw, with practice you can get that and come out with a nearly perfect final result. Okay, moving along, we'll do the same thing on the outside. And then for the center, we'll cut down to the bottom on this side, and then we'll switch, cut down to the bottom on that side and make them meet. Okay, now that we have the rough shape, we can do the final shaping on it using whatever tool we like. You can use power tools, power sanders, hand sanding. Personally, I'm a big fan of cabinet rasps. Okay, so I'll continue on that way with the cabinet rasp until I get the final shape all the way around. And then you will have noticed that this is very thick compared to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Japanese Ryoba and I'm going to cut this in half after I've shaped the outside shape of the whole thing. That way I have less shaping to do on each individual one. Okay, so split in half, 2 lucets, hole drilled. Now we need to round over those handles and round over all of these edges. I'm going to use sandpaper to do that because I'm not sure how strong this Douglas fir I've picked is. So we'll get to sanding that. Feel free to use a power sander. I'm going to do it by hand. Just because I think the hand gives just a little more control, and the finest grit that I've seen on a power sander is 120 grit, which means I'm going to have to go back over it by hand anyway. But that's neither here nor there. Let's just get to sanding. I don't want this perfectly round. I want this roundy so that it turns nicely and has registered flat sides. So I'm just going to really, I'm just rounding over the corners here, here, here. Alrighty, okay, so there's the first little bit. Now it turns over nice and easy in the hand. So I'm just going to do that to the whole thing. Okay, once we have the shape all sanded in, we'll take care of the sides. I like to clamp the block in and move the thing. Allows me more freedom of movement. Okay, it's not perfect. There's a tear out here, but it's not bad. I think I'll give it a bit more sand at this grit. And we'll just swap this out for 220. This is 180. Or is it 160? Doesn't matter. Yeah, that tear out's pretty much gone now. Alright, and we'll do that to the other one, and then we'll take care of the hole. Just roll up a piece of 220 grit paper, stuff it in the hole, rotate it around, pull it in and out, ream it at an angle. You can wrap this around a dowel if your paper isn't strong enough. This works pretty well for now. Okay, we have two basic Lucet shapes. Now what I need to do is coat those in oil and then dry them. So I'll put them in the microwave for about 15 seconds and then I'll let that oil soak in until it soaks in completely, and I'll continuously rub it. I'll come back every hour or so and give it a good hard rub until the oil's all soaked in. And then I will finish it with a thin coat of shellac. And that'll make it nice and smooth, allow the string to roll off, or the cordage, the string that you're making into the cordage, to roll off nicely. Yeah, so all of that process is going to take place later. But we're done up to this point. Alrighty, that is now slathered with pure linseed oil, not boiled linseed oil. I just give it a light rub all over, which is impossible to do with one hand. Anyway, we'll do that, and then we'll fire them in the microwave for 15 seconds. Okay, completely slathered in pure linseed oil. Now we take them over and fire them into the microwave. There we go, in the microwave. 15 seconds. Round they go. Okay. Now, there is a visible difference in their surface. Let's get it back over in the bright light. Okay, you can see how the surface now looks satiny instead of sheeny. And that's because some of that oil, a goodly portion of it, has been sucked into the wood by the heat, by the drying. So we'll just leave that overnight. And every couple of hours I'll come back and I'll give it a rub with that little piece of cloth there, rubbing in the oil that is on it. And hopefully by tomorrow it's ready to shellac. Okay, there they are after 4 hours of absorbing the oil and rubbing them out. There's no surface oil on them anymore. You can't really feel it. They still feel a little slick, a little oily as such. So now we're just going to leave them sit until tomorrow, and then tomorrow we will whack them with some shellac-em. Okay, and the weather outside has been anything but delightful. In fact, it's pretty frightful. So I'm going to have to let it go and just do the closing video on this for now. I'll eventually finish sanding the Lucets out, and then I will shellac them and give them a nice polished sheen. But for now, this is all we can do given the weather. So how does a Lucet work? Well, it's pretty easy. You actually just take a loop and put it over one of the arms, and it doesn't matter. And you can put the loose end through the hole here, which allows you to control it a little better with your finger, or not. It doesn't matter. You can just have it hanging over. I'm going to put it through here. I'm going to put it through here so that I can control it better. Okay, so here's how it works. Got that loop, you turn the Lucet, turn the Lucet. Now that you have the two strings on one arm, you lift that loop over the top and just let go. Then you turn the Lucet again. Now you got another loop over. And you can give this a little tug. Over. Lift. Tug. Turn. Lift. Tug. Turn. Lift. Tug. Turn. And you just keep that up for a while. And eventually you get cordage. You make the cordage tighter or looser depending on how tight you keep these lines. If you keep that really tight and pull it tight through every time you wrap it over. So if you pull it over and pull that tight, then you can get the cordage to be very tight. Pull. So you see that'll make the loops smaller and tighter. And eventually you'll make cordage, which you can use for all kinds of purposes. And you can use, with these kind of Lucets, you can use any kind of string, from sewing thread all the way up to big hemp cordage to make flexible ropes. So pretty useful device. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.